Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series here in Austin, Texas, as it's time to begin the semifinals. I'm your host, Nathanius, joined by two of my favorite memers in all of the Milky Way. It is Rapid Casting in Fear Dragon 64, not to be mistaken with the Fear Dragon U, any of the newer models. Rapid, we're here to the semis. It's only been pretty much three. Actually, it has been 3-0s all day. Does it change here? That's the first question.
No.
Okay. Fear Dragon. Does it change?
Is it all 3 zeros? Was it the two 3-1s?
There was a 3-1 earlier.
There were two 3-1s
There were
earlier.
two of them.
Yeah, that's
You're
like,
wrong.
That's like ancient history.
That's true. We've reformed, and ever since then, in the round of 8, we've had nothing but 3 zeros. Eventually, like I said, that will change in the finals, where it may very well be a 4-0. I think it's really, like, when you think about the players and the way that it'll go, I feel like the bracket has transpired that way. I don't think I thought it would be all 3 zeros, but you certainly, it is actually very nice to see some new faces up here in the top 4. Guys like Mana specifically is just having the run of his life. Lambo making it deeper in the tournament than he has ever before. And I'm excited to see how far that road continues until everybody loses to Serral.
This is pretty much the underdog versus the overdog series. Serral.
The overdog.
I mean, Serral's a pretty overdog right now.
like a Clifford the Big Red Dog type overdog,
Or an updog.
Yeah, or
Okay, that works too. So, with that being said, we do, of course, have our semifinal bracket is completely set. It is this match of Serral versus Lambo in that underdog versus updog storyline that we've been talking about. And then on the other side, Mana versus Special, where Mana's the spoiler player of the tournament who has defeated all of the people that have usually defeated Special. So if you think about it, he should be able to make it, but apparently Mana can beat anybody here.
As long as he takes the first game of the series, right? That's all you need to do.
That seems to be the rule, at least today. There was the, True did take that map before, but it's like, we don't talk about it.
Outliers. There's an exception to every rule.
Exceptions prove the rules, right?
That's true.
This series, we do have a piece to look at in just a moment, but any early first impression thoughts at this matchup?
I mean, it's obvious. I'm not even going to say that Serral's favored here because everyone already knows it at this point. We're just going to be saying that every single time we're at the desk. We're going to Serral's favored in this series. But I do think this is kind of cool because although Serral is not exactly a super new player, it's not like he came up in the last year or something, but he is one of the newer age generation of Zerg players that kind of came up in the past 2 or so years. And on the other side of the bracket, you have Special and Mana, who are like the old school players who've been playing since like 2010, 2011. Special's, actually, both of those players are from Brood War, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
Special is one of the best Brood War players in the foreign scene, and he carried that right over to StarCraft 2, and here he is in the round of 4.
So we got that kind of new age section of the semifinals, then we got the old age section of the semifinals. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that this dominance from Serral has not only been so apparent, but also consistent all the way back from WCS Leipzig at the start of the year, and then in WCS Europe Challenger, which we got to cast, he dominated everybody. The only map that he lost, we talked about, was to Hero Marine, and he's like, well, I'm going to undo that one now, as we saw him do earlier. Are there any holes in Serral's play? Do we see
This is where we do
mistakes?
the caster thing, and it's like, so what does he need to do to win? It's like, well, maybe, I don't know, bring a few baseball bats, intercept Serral all the way to the stage.
Yeah, right? Because I feel like it goes back to what everyone
Leave
always
Caltrops.
says. Yeah, right? Because I feel as though every single time you ask, what's good about Serral? What does he do better than everyone else? Everyone except for, it seems like, Jeff, and even Jeff was a little bit ambiguous about this. He was like, well, he's just really good. He's aggressive, and he's also really good at macro, and he's really good at mechanics, and he's also really good at attacking. I'm like, okay, so you basically just let's say he's good at StarCraft.
So Serral, the perfect human being, goes up against Lambo. Let's take a look at their road to the semifinals.
There's nothing there. There is nothing in the main base right now. The third base getting sieged at the same time. This is Serral in his element.
I think my journey has been quite convincing. I haven't lost a single map so far.
Is he doing enough? Does he have enough to hold?
I think he's doing it, Fear Dragon.
Well, so far my journey was even better than expected because I'm now in the round of 4 for the first time. I mean, it feels great. It feels almost like winning a tournament, but I feel like in order to get that kind of feeling, I have to go one step further.
I think Lambo is a very strong player and it's not going to be easy.
Serral is, in my opinion, the best foreigner. It's gonna be super hard to beat him. He has the best ZvZ in the entire world, including Korea, in my opinion. Serral, you might be the best foreigner for the rest of the year, but this weekend I'm gonna try to take your spot.
Friendship doesn't come to the game.
This is the World Championship Series. A lot of respect being shown by Lambo. He's like, I want to take your spot this weekend. Dude, can he fill those shoes of Serral as the best foreigner this weekend?
I love that. It's like a lot of respect being shown by Lambo, and then you have Serral who's like, friendship cannot be friend, or cannot come with the game, or something like that. I'm like, okay, Serral.
Yeah, you may not like it, but this is what peak human performance looks like coming out of Serral this weekend. Rapid, he says it won't be easy, but if this ends up.
I feel like even before this tournament started, we were all just waiting to see if there would be any crazy upsets, you know, if maybe Serral would lose early, and that was really the only hope, if somehow tragedy struck, right?
Yeah.
And now we're here in the semifinals. Nothing is happening. It feels like we're all waiting for Serral to finish him.
Yeah, we're just waiting for him to go pick up the trophy. Let's find out if he's going to be able to do that. We're going to bring the players up onto the stage with Smix to introduce our first semifinalists.
Thank you very much, Nathanias. It has been a long and amazing 3 days. We started with 80 players, and now we are down to just 4. Austin, are you ready for our first semifinal match? Our first player is a German Zerg who has had the best run of his career so far, and he goes up against a great finish wall and tournament favorite. Please welcome up on stage, it is Lambo and Serral.
Lambo going full American here for the semifinal match. The U.S. flag shorts, the 10-gallon hat, but Serral, he has that villainous look about him. He is here to shut down every hero that thinks that they could defeat him, as this is not a story with a happy ending for anybody other than him.
I mean, right now, Serral is the outlaw and Lambo is the sheriff, but sheriff always has the odds stacked against him, Nate. I want to believe, though. I want to believe in the sheriff.
You know, you said there's no other winner than perhaps potentially Serral, but I would like to highlight the true winner of this series, Nate, and that is the fan.
Don't make me throw up. Okay, yes. Well, you get to see some very high-level StarCraft at the least. You know, we always talked about how in the old days, you're like, I want to see the best players come back from Korea and show us good StarCraft live. Like, that's why I want them to come out. But in reality, it's like, well, now with Serral, you get to see the best player without having to see Koreans, because Serral is apparently that damn good. Lambo saying himself that Serral seems to have the best ZvZ, including Korea.
In the entire world.
In all of planet Earth. And that's a high statement to make. A lot of respect. And of course, it's the guy that you have to play, which must also feel terrible.
Yeah, it's not a great feeling, but in a weird way, here's kind of going into like the pro gamer mentality, the head of a pro player. You go up against someone like Serral, and there's sort of this weird factor where you say, nobody expects me to win. Even I kind of don't expect me to win here.
Got nothing to lose.
I just have nothing to lose. I can just kind of play the games. If I lose a game, if I get dominated in game number 1, game number 2, you're like, whatever, I'll see if I can take a game out of Serral, because that in and of itself will be an accomplishment, so you get to play with no pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd personally like to see him just pull a Mana, do some meme builds, do something that doesn't make any sense, because Mana seems like he came here. I'm just going to have fun and do whatever and try to win. Let's find out what Lambo has in store for Serral as our match is ready to begin. Let's get on with the semifinals.
Here we go with our first semi-finals. It's going to be Germany up against Finland. And the battle of the Zergs to see who our first finalist will be.
Should be a good one way or another, as we've been seeing. But I want this Austin crowd to get into it. We've only got 2 other matches in this one. It's time to see some top-notch StarCraft. And speaking of top-notch StarCraft, in the lower left-hand side, coming all the way from the frigid lands of Finland, it's Serral!
And facing off against him, up here in the top right, he's been wearing those stars and stripes all weekend. I know it's not just Fear Dragon that believes in him. He can make this happen. Up here in the top right, the red Zerg, hailing from Germany, it is Lambo.
Got to give a tip of the hat, so to speak, to Lambo. He came out acting a little bit loose and goose, kind of making himself look silly just before Serral makes him look silly, I suppose.
I'm hoping not. I feel like, you know what, we've seen so many crazy upsets this week, and Mana's been pulling them off. Lambo's just pulled one off before against Nurture. Let's keep the train rolling. Let's just keep turning these series upside down. Nothing could be crazier than Lambo winning this one 3-0. And who knows? Who knows? At this point, I'm not making assumptions. I'm just going to watch the games and see the craziness play out.
You know, I got to give some credit there to Ravi on the desk. It's true. Lambo knows it. He knows that he's the underdog. He knows that he's got nothing to lose, quote unquote. You know, we were kind of talking about the inevitability of facing Serral and how some of these players are pretty, you know, fatalistic about it. They're like, oh, I stand no chance. But when you feel like you have no chance, but you're still kind of having a good time and facing that reality, there is a certain element of danger that shows up there where you do start to pull off some of the things that Mana did. And let's not forget what Mana did. It's not quite as big of a discrepancy as what we're seeing here with Serral, but Mana was the statistical underdog to Snoot by a large margin and pulled off the 3-0. He disrupted Snoot, did some cheeky stuff, and won the series. It is possible.
It's possible. Those are the words going into this series. Those are the thoughts on everyone's mind. There's a lot of things that can come out here. And interestingly, Lambo, you know, he's had to show a couple of Zerg versus Zerg builds before against Nurture. Once again, going to be going for a no Zergling speed play. Going into a very fast lair and evolution chamber. The Zerglings spot the fast lair on the natural. Serral is aware.
Yeah.
He knows he's going to be facing off against this, and he's probably just thinking, look, you're teching up to roaches, you're teching up to roach speed. Lambo, though, you know, he's a tricky guy. He could do a couple of kind of curveballs off this. There are some crazy options. So personally, I'm going into this and I'm saying, you know, don't take anything for granted, and I'm sure Serral isn't either. He's going to be wanting to slide Zerglings in when Link Speed finishes, poke around with Overlords. He wants to get as much information as possible.
What about the lair at the natural, though, Pig? Is that a mistake, or is that, I mean, why? It kind of shows off tech, right? That's one of the first spots that gets scouted?
I was a little bit surprised by that. It may have been like a missed hotkey or something. He meant to get it on the other hatchery. Because, yeah, normally you'd build the third queen on the natural. Who knows? Maybe he was saying, look, the queen pops out earlier in the main. I actually don't care if this gets scouted. I just want to get the third queen out as quickly as possible. Get these two queens to the front. It's a solid opening. You know, this isn't a crazy all-in. It's like, look, he's going to 4 gases, actually. He's going to add roach speed. This is kind of just your very safe macro roach build-up. So Lambo not actually pulling out any surprises. And Serral, he did scout with his Zerglings around there a bit as well. He saw the Evo chamber wobbling. He knows there's an upgrade on the way because of that. So I think Serral's got a pretty good read of what's going on.
There it is. I was actually wondering. So the roach speed was delayed. He is investing in the +1 at range attack upgrade, so it's not a complete fake, and there is the roach speed. But I was wondering if we'd see a Spire, because it is showing off a fairly common opening, and it's not like throwing a Spire down behind this is the craziest thing in the world, but it could catch Serral off guard.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so fast as well, right? Like, basically, Lambo's saying, look, the last thing you want to do is attack into a guy who's massing roaches on 2-base tech. The queen wall is solid. Those Zerglings would love to slide in there. We talk so much about how Serral has map hacks in this matchup. He always finds an opening, his Lings get in, and he sees everything, and then he makes the perfect reaction to that. In this case, Lambo shutting down the option. He is not giving Serral an opportunity to spot this tech, and that is so important.
Meanwhile, a little bit of a scout. I think it's an overseer on the left side of the map. Yep, it just gets pushed off that third. And critically, it doesn't see that much saturation there. So there's really only a couple possibilities when that is the case. So some almost defensive roaches will come out here, but these Lings are going to get in and up into the main base. Still seeing some roaches, but there is the Spire spotted. And only just now seeing roaches. Now, critically, he didn't see a lot of larva buildup. So I don't think he necessarily thinks all of a sudden 11 meters are going to show up, but he knows it's now a possibility. So maybe the Hydra Den, a few more queens, that kind of stuff. He's going to have to prepare for the anti-air.
Yeah, even though he's got the information, I think it's nice in terms of the work account, Lambo a little bit ahead and getting the mutas out for control. Because it's spotted, Lambo said, you know what, let's not overcommit. He's staying flexible. He's building 4 Mutalisks, 5. I don't think he's going to build any more than like maybe 6 or 7 at most. Hunt the Overlords, force Spore Crawlers, force a reaction. And what's that? A Hydra Den. I think he's going to go straight to Lurkers behind this and basically try to catch Serral building extra queens and spores, stuck on the anti-air focus, surprise him with the Lurkers. So Lambo here, it's all about surprising Serral with tech. It's about not just facing him in roach to roach, head to head, a mechanical war of who can control better. It's about out-tricking him, outsmarting him, and that Lurker Den already on the way. This is such a smart transition from Lambo.
Yep, good call there, Pig. And it's nice to see some confident play here coming out from a Serral opponent, right? Like Lambo had an idea, went into this, denied the scouting, like you were saying, and has so far painted a picture of believability here. He's going to go up to his 4th base behind this as well, so it's not like a 3-base timing attack. Meanwhile, we do have the Hydra Den coming out for Serral as well, and additional queens. So to your point, because you actually probably don't add queens unless you believe it's a possibility that you're going to need that kind of anti-air to hold off some kind of mass Muta opening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Queens, you know, they're not a bad defensive unit, but offensively, they're almost useless. They just don't do enough damage. They're so fat, they kind of block your other units. And we are going to see the Overseer come in with love to scout that Lurker Den. Is going to get the spot on that. That's very valuable information. He knows that his Lurker Den just starting is behind, so he's going to have to try and, you know, make sure the Lurkers don't surprise him, get sieged up on a base in a good angle. With Lurkers, it's a lot about positioning. You know, whoever gets the angle can kind of hold a choke point. If they get in range of a hatchery, you can't really break that position. So both players are going to get into a very positional war, looking for angles on the other player.
What's the right kind of number for Lurkers, Pig? I know that there's not a hard number necessarily, but is there a tipping point where you have too many or too few?
It's really funny because I think like you can split them. If you get too many, you can kind of be like, oh, throw one in a mineral line here, throw one in a mineral line there. And sometimes you'll even see at this level, guys split their army in 2. They'll have 6 Lurkers on the north with Roaches, 6 Lurkers on the south. So it really comes down to each player. We see 7 Lurkers morphing there. That's enough to massacre straight Roach Hydra on its own. So definitely something Serral needs to get a response up against.
All right. Well, his own Lurker Den still not yet finished. It's going to have to be at range here. Ideally, you fight Lurkers kind of off your base. If they get into a position where they're hitting the hatch or minerals themselves, it's really, really tough. He's going to sneak around here, is Lambo, and get into position. But getting through there's tough. He's going to burrow down the 7. There's a bit of a concave on the other side of this. Is it going to be enough? Serral's going to take this engagement. He's down in supply.
They actually weren't the best corrosive biles from Serral either. A lot of them landed just between 2 of the Lurkers. Only 1 Lurker has fallen here. The Lurkers, though, with a very ballsy unburrow and move forward, he is going to start to get worn down, but more Roaches are about to reinforce in. The Lurker count is falling. There's only 3 left, but the Roaches are swinging in from the natural and
falling.
Lambo.
They're trading so well. The damage has been done. Serral down 60 supply, and in a ZvZ, that is just about it. If you're down that much, you're in a lot of trouble. Serral's going to back up here. He's losing the 3rd behind a 4th base even of Lambo. We might see for the first time in this tournament, there it is, GG from Serral, and Lambo is up 1-0 against the overwhelming favorite.
First blood drawn against Serral in this tournament. It's the first map that he's actually dropped so far. And Lambo does it very decisively. A beautiful game plan. You could see he had every transition and stage of that mapped out. Played it to perfection. Yes, Serral spotted the Spire, but it was much later than he would have liked to. He didn't have a chance to kind of get a step ahead at any point. Lambo, a very cool series of plays there.
I was right there with you, too. With each pickup of the Lurkers and burrow, that might as well have been my heart palpitation, because it felt like such a risky move. There was a huge concave of a lot of units, but you also said it too, Pig. It just boils down to how good Lurkers are against that composition. And even though that force was cleaned up, quote unquote, they were trading so cost effectively that the huge, robust production behind that was just an overwhelming force. And with that, Serral on stage kind of talking to himself. It is literally the first map he's dropped in WCS Austin. In fact, you have to go back to Challenger in one of his series, not even the final one, where he drops 1 map against Hero Marine, a player that's already eliminated as well. So Serral not used to that loss screen. He's just not used to it.
He is a player who was taking down players like Rogue and Katowice, you know, the best ZvZ players in the world. And it's always scary to play against him, but I think here in this series, Lambo definitely surprised him a little bit with how quick those Lurkers got over there. You know, Ravagers can not really counter Lurkers, but they can slow them down. Serral, though, wasn't dropping corrosive biles till they were already sieged up in range of his base. And maybe the answer was to get out on the map and intercept that push. You know, when your opponent gets to run 3/4 of the way across the map, morph Lurkers outside your base, they have a lot of freedom.
I find Roaches a lot like Liberators in that if you're fighting the mid-map and kind of kiting back against them, their kill power is a lot more reduced. You can kind of manage them. But when they're at your base, when they're outside your door, you're in a lot of trouble. Well, here we are. Map number 2 is going to be Acid Plant. These guys are going to do battle in the top left-hand side. Please, everyone, put your hands together for Serral.
Serral developing such a fan base around the world. You know, it's so cool to see a player just reach these new heights. Such a level of consistency and such an obstacle in the way of this player down here in the bottom right-hand side. He's been playing it fast and loose with his opponents so far. He's been pulling out some tricky builds. Let's see if he can keep that momentum going. Let's give it up, guys, for down here in the bottom right-hand side, the red Zerg. He is Lambo.
And now, for the first time, we get to kind of see Serral being challenged. You're down 0-1. It is a best of 5. You gotta lose 3 to lose this, but 3 starts to feel a little bit closer to home when you're already down 0-1. So Lambo putting the challenge to Serral, and Serral's gonna have to overcome that. You have to believe too. In all his interviews, Serral kind of keeps talking about, like, he doesn't talk about himself in a real boastful way. He's a pretty humble guy despite himself, but you have to believe there's a lot of confidence, and for that to get rocked here a little bit, it's going to be interesting to see if he can bounce back.
Shout out, by the way, to Mapu observing this series for us. One of our lovely observers out there with Insano have been giving us beautiful coverage of these games throughout. Haven't been missing a single beat of the action. Something anyone who's ever watched commentators like us try to observe while we're casting have seen the fail that often ends up being. We miss a lot of the action, so thank you guys for keeping us focused on everything that is going on. And Acid Plant, a big map here. We've seen this almost every series in this tournament so far.
You know, though, to that point, and I don't disagree with you, it is one of the more common maps, but it's been really nice because I have to say, this is one of the first tournaments where we've pretty consistently seen all the other maps, and it feels like more of a stylistic pick. I know this becomes a little bit of a patronizing comment, but often there's just that 1 or 2 maps where people are like, nope, we don't play on there, and you just don't see it. So the map pool feels less dynamic and interesting, but this has been a wonderful, wonderful map pool. So shout out to everybody that's made that possible as well, and StarCraft just comes such a far way. We have a 3rd base being taken by both these players, and it's actually kind of the closer base pick. So talk me through this. Why this base?
Well, this one does give you a faster kind of push path towards your opponent's natural once you take down these rocks in front of it. It's also just, it's kind of like a little bit further away, but it's got kind of tighter choke points into it. Some people just kind of prefer defending this angle, so it's very much a stylistic choice. I don't think it like hugely influences the game, except that sometimes players will just be like, get a pack of roaches, break the rocks, you know, with their Zerglings early, and just go for that fast push.
Okay, there's going to be Ling Bailey behind that, so we're going to see that really micro-intensive defensive and offensive back-and-forth game here. It's really fun to watch because it has a very different feel to the rest of StarCraft. The rest of StarCraft can have, like, oh, okay, you're doing that opening, well, here's the harass that your opening is meant to kind of reject. But with Ling Bainling, I find both players walk this really interesting tightrope of, I can be all defense or I can be all offense, but oftentimes they kind of shift roles and go back and forth. And it's just like raw micro and decision making that kind of determines the outcome. I love it.
It's a lot of push and pull. Keep the pressure on your opponent. Don't let them get away with droning. Punish them if they drone too hard. You know, if they force you to build a lot of fighting units quickly, get across the map, force them to build fighting units. It's that constant push and pull between can I build army units or workers. And interestingly enough, both players going for a fast evolution chamber. Serral straight into the ranged attack upgrades. Meanwhile, Lambo going for the faster lair. I think he might be going for a melee upgrade and then mutas.
Yeah.
Or it could even be a fake evolution chamber, actually.
Just to show him that he's doing like something similar. And
yeah, because it's like very similar timing to Serral, so he might not even use it. I think he will get a melee, but we'll have to keep our eyes on that.
Mutas would be interesting here because this map does get shrunk down by those bases like you were talking about. So, you know, oftentimes players can even do like a spine crawlers to defend up against a roach timing attack, but in these positions, you really don't have that option. You're either losing your third or your natural that way.
Exactly,
so definitely. It plays out that way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. A Roach Warren does go down. Serral Zerglings, we talk about them, they're magic. They always get in the base. Spots the lair, Roach Warren instant cancels. Lambo once again playing mind games. It's going to be Mutalisk play from Lambo, 100%. Melee upgrade does start up. Yeah, he does not want to play Serral in a mirror match. You know, looking at the early game, I was like, hey, he's just playing Lingbane third. Do you really want to go up against Serral in just a straight up game? Nuh-uh. Lambo, once again, he's the man with the plan. He wants to mix things up, and he wants to play it. Not like the mirror. Yeah, Serral is like so good at scouting.
Get in there. And there's the Spire seen and spotted. We don't do that thing where like, but did he see it? Of course he did.
Serral always sees it. And he's actually continuing roach production right now. He's breaking down his own rocks. We were talking about that faster push path, Jeff. Yeah. He's going to be doing it. Serral wants to break down these rocks. He's looked at that Spire timing, and he said in his head, I don't think that's fast enough to get Mutas out to stop this push. You know what? Lambo needs to spot this. He needs to start building spine crawlers on his natural right now.
1 for 2 there. Not bad.
Lambo's got 66 workers and a 4th on the way. I don't think Lambo realizes this is coming. His Overlord hasn't spotted the roaches yet. Lambo has no idea.
And that's a huge mistake. There's no reason not to see that. There's no Queen or Hydras that are going to chase that off. He's even taking a 4th base pig. He has to have no idea.
Oh, I mean,
now he's more drones?
Yeah, he's got
just a free loss.
Oh, if he could just build spines, but only now. It's too late. It's too late. The spy is still about 15 seconds from finishing. The spines haven't started. There's no Roachmore in tech. All he can do is hold down the Zergling key. I'll tell you what's not great against Roach, Baneling in control. It is just Zerglings.
No.
They are not going to be the counter to this. They've got +1 range. They're going to be two-shotting the Zerglings as well. The melee upgrade, even that is not finished.
No, the drones are confused about what they're going to do because it's just die back at home, I guess. Here come the Roaches. They're going to go up this ramp. 8 mutas in production, but just now in production. So much damage can be done. The drone's going to try to be pulled against this. Well, if Zerglings are bad against Roaches, drones are worse. This Queen is going to die inside of that 3rd base. That, too, is trouble. And here's the thing. The mutas can come out. It's going to take a while to kill all of this anyways. Serral up 50 supply and not looking back.
Yeah, GG. The equalizer comes out. The drone's trying to go walkabout, but there was no way they were going to survive. Those Mutalisks coming a little bit late to the party. And Serral says, nah, I am not going to get surprised by that cheeky play once again. You know, if Serral was macroing up and just kind of saying, let's play economy and get defense against the mutas, once again, that would have been a sick play from Lambo.
Yeah.
His economy was lit. It was insane. He had the 4th base down. He would have had mutas, Ling counter attacks, and he could have gone to like Ultralisk. So many different styles would have opened up to him. But he didn't dot his I's. He didn't cross his T's. He didn't have the Overlord position on the rocks.
Yeah,
and just that one slip-up can really punish you.
But also greed. 4th base, more drones, and you're going Ling, Muta, Baneling. I mean, so to be brutally honest, of course, not spotting the attack coming is one thing, but to Ling, like he was already doing an offshoot strategy that is very strong if not caught, but it was scouted. With it being scouted, Lambo still said, I think he's going to defend, so I'm going to take a 4th and drone up further. You have to secure that knowledge. You have to be as active as Serral has been with your Lings to confirm that. Because if you start to see the Roaches trickling out after it gets scouted, and Pig, I heard your own Zerg instincts kind of kick in there. You're like, oh, okay, he's still making Roaches. That in and of itself is a broadcast of information, so then you know. But unfortunately, Lambo, and you know, you were talking about this, cross your T's and dot your I's, that's the kind of stuff that can slip under when you're playing a really top-notch player where against somebody else, maybe it's more forgiving, but not against Serral. You can't make that mistake.
Yeah, you want to cut those corners. Sometimes you cut one too many, you forget to do some of those other things. Keep track of the fact that your opponent can be flexible, can be aggressive. Serral has shown he has got dangerous, aggressive plays throughout this tournament. He's added that new dimension. It's what we keep mentioning, is that he is much more dangerous. He's much less, I think, predictable than he used to be as a player. And that is why it is scary. You can't just foresee the future. You've got to double check what he's up to, or he will run into your base and just finish you.
All right, we're gonna head to Dreamcatcher here as we once again welcome these players into map number 3 on the bottom half of the map, the Blue Zerg. It is Serral.
Just racking up the wins here and rallying very well after dropping the first game in this series. But putting up a very good fight. He's got to win 2 more to close it out and to make it through to the grand finals. Up here in the top left, in the red, he is Lambo.
And with the score divvied up 1 apiece, it just now becomes a best of 3. It's shortened down, and that's why you can kind of see a little bit of the concern on Lambo's face. It was really nice being up 1-0, and it was really nice walking out and doing it the way he did as well, but kind of a gimme game in that second one, and Serral might just drag this back in his favor. Both players kind of opening up macro-wise here. We haven't seen that cheeky early pool or anything like that just yet.
Yeah, both players going to be going hatchery first here. Dreamcatcher, a fascinating map because it's quite a short rush distance across the middle, but there's all these choke points. There's long grass that blocks the sight. We saw Scarlet yesterday, unfortunately, run into a Baneling there and tap out against Nurtio. You know, we saw a lot of different matches where players have struggled to defend the 3rd base because it's spread so far. Really haven't figured this map out for Zerg vs. Zerg. We just know that it's definitely something where you're not going to always see that slow standard game. Acid Plant was way bigger, way safer.
Well, we're going to throw out the reference to TLO ZvZ where we saw double gold here, but I'm going to ask the question anyways. How does the gold function into a ZvZ? It's a smaller map. like you said, the rush distance is short, but even if, if the rush is short, then just the normal pathing is short. But how viable are the gold bases?
Well, Jeffrey, I think Haas needs to swap to Zerg before we see those gold bases come into Zerg versus Zerg. It's like beyond risky. It is insane to take those gold bases. In some rare chaotic situations, maybe you'll see someone try to hide a base up in the corner. Maybe if you're going Mutalisks or something where your opponent doesn't have as much map control and you're kind of just saying, cross my fingers, hope they don't scout it, because there's no viable way to defend that corner of the map.
Okay. See how it pans out that way. Both players kind of droning up right now. This is a very comfortable ZvZ in terms of the early game back and forth. We haven't seen a whole lot of ultra aggression or big risks being taken. And there is, again, that lair on the low ground. So at this point, it's not a mistake.
Yep.
It's a very technical point, so I don't want to drag this out too far. Obviously, it's not even like, well, if he wins, I want to have Smix out. Well, why the layer on the lower? No, nothing like that. But worth noting, because it's usually you do that for misinformation or something. It's not really a stylistic thing. There is some purpose to it. But anyways.
I'm going to say he really likes the slightly faster third queen. It's a matter of like 4 seconds. Okay. But, people at this level start to really care about those tiny little minutiae. So, you want both queens at the front as well to intercept the Zerglings. And this way you've got the queen there. So it can inject and immediately go back to defending the Lings. The new queen pops out in the main. The inject goes down. It's a clean opening. Lambo prioritizing efficiency over denying information.
I like it. And that would be the explanation. So, again, that Evo Chamber not wiggling and jiggling until just now. It is going to be a melee upgrade over there. Serral going for a faster lair himself. The first 2 games have featured faster thirds than lair.
This is, I believe this is a Scarlet build from Lambo where you go for, oh no, cancels the melee. Okay, it's a fake. The amount of cancels, I didn't even know, but the amount of cancels Lambo has done this series, he is really trying to mess with Serral's head. He says, okay.
Everyone is too, that's the funny part.
It's like, if you're going to see everything and I can't stop you seeing everything, what can I do? Well, I can just like put down fake things to confuse you. And that seems to be working out okay in this series so far. Going to be going to the third base. So it is a 2-base Spire into a delayed third against the Roach Speed +1. Serral building up into the Roach tech, taking the third. No Overseer on the way yet. And not many Zerglings on the map. I don't know if there's any Zerglings out, actually, since he didn't go Ling Speed. There we go. Overseer is going to come across. But it's kind of morphed on his side of the map.
Yep.
So it's going to take a long time to get in and actually spot the Spire. And especially if the Queens rotate down, they may be able to zone it out a little bit. So this is going to delay Serral having that valuable information. Now, he could still push across, maybe cancel the third base. Thing is, you're happy to kind of cancel your third. If you've got the Mutalisks up, the air superiority, you can have a smaller economy than your opponent, because those Mutalisks, even if they don't kill drones, they force a huge investment in anti-air.
I do have to say, though, this is the better Spire. It's going to finish and then be scouted, or at least very close to it. The Lings popping out, I agree with you, Pig, that canceling the third would be a nice result for Serral, but there's also enough Lings out here that if you do that, you have to really protect your natural, otherwise those Lings can either run in and cancel your own third, or cause damage inside. And you can see Serral's just not comfortable moving out just yet. As I say that, he's starting to posture towards there.
Looks like he's just going to break the rocks down for now. So Serral just going to maybe focus on the defense. Double queen production starting up, but the work account's not great for Serral. And I guess sees these Zerglings and realizes there's a big investment in Ling pressure. But those Mutalisks are already on the way. And once again, Lambo actually just saying, you know what, 5 Mutalisks. It's this like the European Mutalisk count. You play on the Korean ladder, there's like 14 Mutalisks coming across the map. On the EU ladder, they're like, I know you're smart. I know you're going to react to this. Just 5 and straight back into the economy. And you can see it in the workers tab. Lambo already up about 10 workers and adding the Baneliness and Flyer upgrades. It is going to be mass Muta Ling Bane off a big economy from Lambo. A very cool playstyle. It's going to be all mobility for the Red Zerg.
Yep. Mutas do score a little victory there with a drone or 2 killed, or 3 as it shows. Hydra Den finishing up for Serral, and this is one of the first times that he's been very promptly put on the defensive. So you're going to see the Lurker Den here as well, but there have not been active Lings. There's not been some kind of great scouting venture from him. It's just map control on Lambo's side.
Absolutely, but I love that Roach counter in the top right. I believe Burrow has finished for Serral. I think, no, it looks like he canceled it, or maybe never started. Maybe that was the previous game. But he's got Roaches ready to counterattack the third base. And if they get in and kill like 7 or 8 workers, they pull the Mutas and Zerglings home, that could be a very nice way to equalize the economy a little bit.
4 more Mutas, by the way, and +1 air attack. So Lambo has decided on his next gambit, and that's going to be, most European Zergs do the 5 Mutas, Pig, but instead it's going to be that swarm of Mutas.
Off a really big economy as well. So these Roaches are doing some very nice damage. It is going to be about 7 worker kills.
These 2 more Mutas.
Yeah, that is actually...
And that's kind of weird, right? Because they were just staying there. They're not with the Mutaflock. The Mutaflock is getting bigger, though, so I guess it's not really hiding the numbers.
And Serral 100% clicked on the Zerglings as well at this point. He saw the melee upgrade. He knows that this is a much bigger commitment than normal. He's building Hydras, but he doesn't have the Lurkers yet. And pre-Lurker, Speedbanes are the scariest thing for just killing the Hydralisks. Roaches, though, again, counter-attacking down the right-hand side. Serral here with a very smart maneuver, not only killing a lot of workers, he's going to trade out okay against the Zerglings and spot the fact that there are more Zerglings in production popping out of that hatchery. He should know what's coming his way. At the same time, tries to split out a few more, but he spots the Banelings, and that's so important. Serral knows what's coming. That's going to allow him to spread his units out, position accordingly.
He's spotting everything. Just the one Spore Caller over here right now, though. Not a lot of Hydras. Another one trying to get placed over here, but the attack is showing up. Army supply pretty close and even. It's all about the composition. Here come the Banelings trying to jump on the Hydras. Queen's going to try to buffer that damage. Hydra's falling back. There's the Lurkers. That means your ground army's not going to do it. Can the Mutas fight against Spore Crawlers and
the
Queens?
Transfuse, just keeping that Spore alive. He tried to focus it down, wasn't able to get it. The Mutalisk count has been diminished a little bit down to 14, but most importantly, that was a ton of Zerglings and Banelings. Yes, he's knocked down Serral's economy, but look at Lambo's economy. He's only at 47 workers. He wanted to do this off 60 or 65, but those Roach counterattacks did the damage. The units lost well in Serral's favor. He is playing a very efficient game.
And Lambo is at least pot committed. He's going to jump on a little bit of Hydras there, but it's going to be kind of an even exchange. Just more Mutas coming out. There is no second phase to this for right now. It's Mutaling, Baneling.
Oh, and one more time, the Roaches sliding down this right-hand side of the map. The Roach counterattacks from Serral. He's got two on the left-hand side as well. This is going to be doing Lambo's head in. He's going to be so frustrated. Just a couple of Roaches, such a small investment, and yet it has single-handedly put Serral in such a good position in this game.
He's using them like Zerg adepts, right? They kind of show up really good at kind of one-shotting those drones, and the Lings that show up, they'll kill him, but each time, if you watch, he's still focusing down the drones that come in his reach. So Serral now up in supply, both in army and in workers. Not dramatically so in either case, but it's again that kind of composition that concerns me.
Yeah.
Mutas can snowball, but they really need Ling, Baneling to either jump on the Hydra or just counterattack for days, but Lurkers complicate that composition really, really bad.
Exactly. I mean, this is such a cool mobility composition, and you can often use the threat of the mobility to get up to like 80 workers, 4 bases. Yeah, he's got 4 bases, but he's just got to 60 workers. Lambo is like, okay, I've got a good muta count. Let's add Burrow, you know, kind of getting this stuff in, but there's already a big pack of Hydras and Lurkers out. Normally, this composition relies on the Banelings dealing with, being dealt with by the Banelings dealing with the Hydras.
Yeah.
The Lurkers shut that down. Banelings are worthless at this point. Lambo has to just go for a massive muta count and hope that he can overwhelm the Hydras.
And now the question becomes, does he even have detection, by the way? There's no Overseer in production, so I actually don't think he has any. And that could free up some space for this army to push out.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, Lurkers are really, really good against Armored in particular, but if the Banelings can connect with the Hydras, with the amount of Mutas that are here, Lambo can win that fight, and Mutas snowball really quick, whereas Hydras, not so much. You lose the big number, and that's kind of it.
If we can get a Baneling flank, even just a few of the Hydras falling before they really start to shoot the Mutas, definitely could do it. For now, Lambo just going to give up this base. It's all about the positioning. I'd love to see him try to go for a flank here. With these Lurkers, if you come in one ball of Ling Bane, it is brutal, and I think Lambo's thinking about doing it right now. It may be a disaster if he ends up going for it.
You don't need to. The base is already dead. You know what I love from Serral? This is kind of armchair quarterbacking here a little bit, but I'd love a Nidus for him to reinforce this or get it out of here. But Lambo, he's going to jump on this army. I think he just wants to kill the army, but I really feel like that's a mistake. I love the Baneling trap over here. You can't fight this, Lambo. Get out. He's now down in supply by a lot. He sees the Lurkers throwing their spines up. Yeah, he's going to circle around.
He's trying to burrow Banelings everywhere, but I think the Hydras and the Lurkers are just going to pass to the left here. They're going to avoid that. Lambo trying to get some tricky maneuvers on, but while he's busy with this, the army moves out the right-hand side. Serral creating threat on both sides of the map. The Hydras, though, they are going very close.
They walk right past it.
Oh
my God.
Oh, here we go. Banelings coming in. Unburrows from behind. Manages to connect with a few of these Hydras.
Not bad.
But the Lurker spines clean up the rest, and the Hydras are still going to do a lot of damage. 2-1 upgrades on those Hydras. Take out a fair number of Mutas. Mutas are going to start to overwhelm that ground anti-air. But remember, this is just half of Serral's army. He still has another half on the north that he has to deal with.
And he's losing another base. He was never able to remake that fourth. That's the third base. Down to 2 bases. Supply is still in Serral's favor. Killing the Hydras was nice, but as you pointed out, Pig, a bit of an exchange, right, as opposed to just a straight-up win. And now he's going to jump on top of this, just trying to trim down this army, but the Lurkers are just killing the Banelings. The Hydras kill the Mutas, and that is it. Serral negotiates his way to another win, and we're at match point.
A beautiful play there around a very tricky style. Serral here adapting on the fly to some craziness. And you can see a little bit of frustration.
Shaking his head, frustrated. He's like, should have won that cleaner. Gosh darn it. I'm better than that.
I mean, I've been there before. You know, when you're playing someone who has nothing to lose in Zerg vs. Zerg and is playing the way Lambo is, where everything is trickery, everything is abnormal. You can't expect or assume anything. And you've got to make so many on-the-fly calculations to kind of stay safe in that scenario. In this case, it turned out to be sliding those little roach packs out the side of the map, I think, which really gave Serral the time and the information. You know, even spotting that Baneling attack coming in allowed him to kind of spread his Hydras behind the mineral line. There was a point where I thought the Mutas were going to overwhelm the Spore Crawler and the Queens, and then he got like transfused. It was down to like 20 hit points multiple times, barely survived, kept most of his drones alive, and it was like, okay, Serral, you were spreading your Hydras against the Banelings, spreading your drones against the Banelings, flawlessly transfusing the Spore Crawler at the last second. Okay, it's just Serral in his element. Of course, we should be used to this at this point.
And he is being tested. We're not seeing it necessarily reflected in the score. I mean, just now in this series, Lambo was able to score a victory, but for the most part, even the series against Hero Marine, a couple of those games, for the most part, that last one in particular, it was just like, hey, he could lose this fight. In fact, it looks like he should. But to your point, he just keeps doing the just little right things. I mean, I can't stress enough the point you just made where the 3 Roach counterattack that he was queuing up to do again spots the Baneling timing attack coming in on the right side. That feels like good luck, and there's going to be someone rolling their eyes, but honestly, that good luck keeps happening when you're so active on the map with your Lings and your Roaches, and you just remain committed to counterattacking like he does. That's the kind of stuff that you do scout out and see coming, and then allows you to put yourself in position to defend the timing attack. And that's a big difference between him and other very good players. They're not as committed to the little stuff.
You know, Lambo has shown a lot of strength in this matchup, but as you can see there at the ticker, he's at 1 versus Nurture. Before that, True, Massa, Petit Drogo, Namshar, Zanster, so many Zergs, but also some good Terran and Protoss paths. Players lying dead in his path.
Well, all of that has led up to here, where he's now facing probably the final boss. And we enter into Darkness Sanctuary, the big map. In the lower left-hand side, Austin, I want you to give a big cheer for potentially your next champion. It is Serral. They're like, yeah, we're kind of tired of clapping for Serral here.
He's looking really, really good right now, but this guy has been showing some impressive understanding in the Zerg vs. Zerg matchup. I cannot wait to see how he plays this 4-player map. Guys in the audience, let's give a cheer of support for Lambo.
He can bleed. It's true.
I mean, he got that first win, and that's a confidence booster. And I mean, I'm just kind of nerding out right now as someone who does play Zerg, looking at this map, because I want to say, okay, you're here. You're in a very, very tense situation. How do you play this map? Serral, it looks like he's just going to go stock standard. Lambo as well. So both players, no one opting for, say, a drone scout, a crazy early pool. A 3 hatchery before pool was actually the thing which was on my mind. Lambo maybe had that on his mind, but said, you know what, I'm 1 game away from getting knocked out here. I don't want to risk it on a 3 hatchery build, which I probably never practice.
And best of 5s are deceiving. I mean, Serral has been so dominant in his wins, but he, drops a cheap win here, and all of a sudden he's 1 map away from literally being eliminated. It's not, it just goes from 0 to 100 very quick, right? Like, he didn't lose a single map up until this match, but you trip and fall here, and it becomes like the upset of the century. It becomes such a disappointment. Serral has already got a ticket for himself to that WCS Global Finals, so right now he is fighting for history and some pretty good cash, $20,000 for first place. There's nobody here who's like, yeah, I wouldn't even notice it. $20,000 is pretty good.
Absolutely, it's massive. And I'm sure some people might be thinking, oh, are we actually getting bored of watching Serral win? No,
I'm not.
No, we're actually loving it, especially because he's starting to get tested. And I cannot wait. If he does make it through to the grand finals after this series, I cannot wait. But even here, so far in this series, he's had to work so hard to win those first couple of games. And here we go. Darkness Sanctuary, a huge map. Both players now know from spotting each other's overlords that it's cross map, but they have no other information. The first Zergling starting to cross, a faster Baneling Nest for Serral. Lambo opting for the third base a little bit earlier. I think he's still going to drop a Baneling Nest in just a few seconds' time. So very similar builds on both sides, but we're going to have to see who holds down that Zergling key a little bit faster.
Slightly different in what thirds are taken, but in a split map position like this, it doesn't make that big of a difference right now, I don't think.
Yep.
Both players, excuse me, getting all the information as these Zerglings do kind of circle around. It's very hard to deny a Zergling from scouting in the open air like this. It takes tremendous micro and a huge mistake usually on the other side, but both players are going to get that information. If you look at that production tab, very similar. So workers very similar, and army in favor of Lambo here.
No Baneling Nest for Lambo, so he might actually just be skipping it and saying, you know, it's such a big map, I'm just going to build more Zerglings and kind of keep the fighting on your side of the map. So yeah, you've got Banelings, but as long as I dodge them and I just have the momentum, then that's going to be a good idea. I like it because you do need it eventually. Like, no matter how long you kind of counterattack and you be offensive, eventually your opponent will get Lings and Banes on your side of the map. So I think that's a good choice just to be nice and safe. He really wants to deny the scouting, but this is actually delaying his Zerglings by a lot. And that Zergling of Serral, I mean, they're oiled up and they always just slide past the units. They just glide into the base, and he's actually going to hide in the corner there. I didn't even know you could move there. He's just going to hide.
Sure, why not? So the first aggression does come up at this third, but as so often is the case in ZvZ, if you look at the production tab behind it is drones for Lambo. It's not a real all-in or anything like that. And then Serral is going to be the one making Lings, but the kind of fun thing to watch is how both players decide how committed one or the other is to that, because you want to start cheating out some drones of your own. Oh my God. That is not quite playing with fire, but very close to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's playing with acid is what that is. Banelings, actually a massive hit there from Lambo, right onto Serral's Zerglings. Doesn't want to give him the counter explosion. He's got to get out of there. His Zergling's getting cornered in the back of this mineral line, but a good slide out and a good split off as well, putting a Zergling on the Baneling. Another few do hit the other Baneling. And Serral defends for now, but look at that supply. Look at that work account. Lambo here. Running a very nice early game, adding gases, a Roach Warren, an Evolution Chamber. I believe his lair might... Is he got a lair already?
Not even started.
No, not even started. Okay, just going to play like a big economy hatch tech style for now.
Or when the Roach... We see this too, like the pre-lair just Roach Baneling timing attack.
It's so big, though. I feel like maybe just defensive Roaches into a slower one and then a fourth base, but Serral is going Spire. Yeah. And because Lambo was so focused on harassing the third, he didn't actually scout the main base. So yeah, he's sending a few Lings across, but they actually get taken out. Once again, you know, it's like Lambo, where's his vision at? I don't think he has any idea about the main and natural, has no idea about that Spire going down in the main. So I'd love to see him get a bit more momentum with his Ling Bane pressure. His own lair is starting. He's still got a big economy lead. As long as he's not blindsided by the mutas, I think Lambo's in a fantastic position.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he's able to get that information. A lot of Lings kind of fanning out and looking to get through all these bases. Are they as greased up as Serral's have been? Here's the two that are going to do it. They're going to try. Yep, they'll get in here and do it.
And that's very important. Spotting that Spire when it's only about 2/3 done, always nice. It gives you plenty of time to say, you know what, maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds, I can drop some Spore Crawlers. I can pull my Overlords off the map well ahead of time.
Fourth base.
And, oh yeah, fourth base, absolutely. That's what you want to do. You've already got 70 workers as Lambo. I mean, Lambo has to defend, but he's got 8 Roaches on the way. This should be no problem.
Some Banelings tucked in there as well, so he's kind of well positioned to deal with it. You can see from Serral, it's not going to be a full commitment of some kind of crazy pre-muta attack. There's the European 5 mutas, but is that the armor upgrade for air?
Yeah, I think he thinks it's muta versus muta. Lambo's been trying to get mutas out every game. Serral's assuming. For once, we see Serral not having 100% information and not actually realizing what he's up against here.
Interesting. And how bad is that for him, Pig? Does he cancel it when he realizes he's not going mutas, or let it finish?
It's really awkward, for sure. I think he'll definitely cancel it, maybe swap to attack upgrades. You know, he thinks he's going into a Mutaling versus Mutaling battle. He needs to get that information sooner rather than later. He did get a cancel on the fourth, and now seeing the Roaches, he does know what he's up against. And he's going to have to evaluate exactly what his game plan is. There's so many Lings in production as well as mutas.
Yeah.
Serral definitely looking to adopt an aggressive stance in the next few minutes of this game.
You're right. He is going to cancel and go for the attack upgrade. Lings poking and prodding back and forth. The cancel, as Pig said, is nice to slow this down. A lot of Spore Crawlers going down, by the way. That's 3 Spore Crawlers there. 2 over here. So it looks like it will be mass muta with these upgrades and the Baneling speed. Yeah. And Lambo is either predicting it or just... Well, I mean, he's predicting it, I guess. He's getting prepared for it really well.
I think that's really smart from Lambo. You know, this map plays unlike any other map because it's so wide open. Normally, I would say 90% of the games I've seen on this map, it's
Okay.
upgraded Zerglings or Mutas. Or sometimes, as we see in this case, it's both upgraded Zerglings and Mutas. But Lambo going for this ground-based style off his like slower tech. He's like, look, I'm just gonna have this big fat 4-base economy. I'm gonna overwhelm you with a big maxed out army. That's his game plan. Defend, defend, defend. Finish you off before you get, say, a hive tech transition. But Serral here, he's looking for the angle, and Lambo is gonna need to have very good defense.
Man, the two banelings there could be such a spoiler for this otherwise very cool little counterattack that's taking shape here. Serral setting up a very much so multi-prong attack.
Yeah.
Mita's trying to occupy the attention. Here come the banelings on the right side.
They're going to come down from two angles, the very far left and the far right. Muta's going to be sharking. Zergling's going to try to dive
Speed
through the
up
middle
finish.
at the same time. These banelings, hero baneling
my God.
takes down 5. 2 more still going to get in there and get a nice juicy hit on those drones. 4 workers do go down. The right-hand side is defended. Lambo with solid defense so far.
Not going to argue with that. Good exchange here for Lambo. Supply is very similar between these two players. Lambo with a beefier army. About to add lurkers. He's also going up the infestation pit here too, so he's not just going to kind of reside on this mid-tech army.
Yeah, he wants to scout as well. Like, these Lings have got in. I think what Lambo's most curious of in this position is there a transition? But he sees more Lings flooding out and more Mutas, and that gives him pretty much all the information he needs. He's also going to check, see, is there a hive on the way? Is there some sort of follow-up? And he will come in and see, oh, okay, you know, it's just more Mutas and Zerglings, which allows Lambo to very calmly just defend. He's just got to lock up his bases and not take damage from these attacks.
Wow. Serral poking and prodding there. Interestingly enough, the roaches in this function actually act as kind of a buffer to the hydras. They're not particularly good at anything here except for keeping the Lings occupied. And when those lurkers finish up, of course, that role gets replaced a little bit. But even then, they hold up the Lings and just the lurkers just devastate, as you can see.
Oh, the lurker damage does a big amount to the banelings, but then doesn't finish them off. They get in there, killing 17 workers. At the same time, Queens on the south side get focused down. Serral somehow finds an angle. He was posturing and poking for so long. Lambo wasn't giving him any ground, but eventually Serral finds a way in, gets a good trade-off, and then behind that, the hive starts up. Serral thinking about the Ultralisks, thinking about maybe even Broodlords behind this, and that's the point where Roach Hydra is suddenly not such a good composition at that stage of the game.
And only 13 Hydras, so Lambo's ability to get out on the map is non-existent. The lurkers are really nice, but without the Hydras, the Mutas can just overrun it.
Yeah.
So right now, Lambo, it's like, it's not a bad position, but I gotta tell you, Pig, from the technical angle, he's just pinned in. It's just 4 bases survive for now, and that hive tech you talked about can then come out and swing the favor back in Serral's favor in a straight-up fight.
Absolutely.
Quickly.
I mean, psychologically, this is so hard to defend as Lambo. We see here in attention, he was distracted by the Mutas in the main base, and another 15 workers go down. A few in the main, about 10 or 12 there on the 4th base. And Lambo is stuck in this cycle now of constantly just replacing drones. He never got up to that 85 workers where you're, I lost 15 drones, I don't care. He keeps getting knocked back into the 50s. He doesn't have the abundant minerals which his playstyle was based off. He was meant to be maxed a minute ago, pushing across the map with Roach Hydra Lurker. It didn't happen.
I do have to say, Vipers are coming out for Lambo, so his ability to push out is earlier than I thought. It's still not a super... Like, it's a very good answer, of course.
Yeah.
You can get a big one, and Serral has a tough time pulling out the infected units. That's great.
Yeah, a couple of parasitic bombs on the Mutas would be really good, but I guess we're getting to that point where if Serral gets another minute or two, the Ultra Cavern's almost done. If he gets 2-1 Chitinous Plating Ultras, gets enough of those out, like that's where it suddenly is like, hey, I can just Blinding Cloud all of your Roaches, your Hydras, and your Lurkers. I've got Vipers of my own, and I've got these Space Cows that happen to do gigantic splash damage. They've got huge armor. You do not want to be standing in front of a stampede of those bad boys.
The clock's ticking, so Lambo nearing max army supply here, is going to have to move out. And here's the sacrilegious thing that Serral's doing. He's just kind of ignoring the one lurker. In fact, he picks it off. He has an Overseer in that flock. Yes, he does.
A
There's
couple of parasitic bombs go down. Good peel off there from Serral. Immediately sends those two. He says, you two can hug each other to death.
It's a brutal army. It's a brutal army, the Zerg army. They just don't care. Just now, the 5th base, by the way, being taken for Serral. So this whole time, he's been very smart about kind of just not overdoing it himself. His army's been on the map harassing, but he's left some supply open. 3 ultras about to finish. Chitinous Plating getting there. And by the time Lambo gets mid-map, he might be facing ultras.
Ooh, nice snipe. 1 lurker goes down. Oh, a 2nd lurker goes down. Serral, He's being so smart with this. The Lurkers are the best unit for killing the Ultralisks. He comes in with the Zerglings and actually tries to get the hatchery as well. The adrenal glands, I believe, is done. +2 melee is huge at this point, but doesn't quite get the hatch. Keep in mind, guys, Lambo down 10 workers, doesn't have the 5th base, can't protect a 5th base with this slow army, has to make it happen right here, right now. The Banelings, the Ultras coming in. The Vipers should be nearby. It's a lot about the Vipers from Serral. If he lands the Blinding Clouds, that's going to make it happen.
And the Blinding Clouds do go down in the backfield. There's nowhere to run here. Banelings trying to make connections to the front lines. Ultras and Banelings connect. There's the parasitic bombs. Muta's melting, but they might be exchanging their lives for the backfield of what this army was for Lambo. Supply almost dead. Even army's very close. The Ultras seem to be withstanding, and the Lurkers just holding on, but the reinforcements from Serral is just too close. A bit of exchange back and forth. Serral's able to do this.
But suddenly, Serral has Ultralisks. He's got the better upgrades with the 2-1. He's got the 5th. He's up in workers. He's up in economy. And now with the army's reset, Serral defending that attack, it was crucial. Lambo is in a tough position. Rebuilding Roach Hydra Lurker. It's not a bad composition, but his economy is stifled. And on this map, look at the distance to those 5th bases. They're so far away. How do you ever defend that with Roaches and Hydras? You just don't. Lambo
and
basically...
what a chore. The Lings that are running around for Serral, if he thinks about taking a 5th base, he knows it'll get picked off immediately, so then he has to use his army to defend it.
Yeah, he's got one big rebuild here. That's all Lambo can really do. Make one more maxed out army and try to break him with that, but my gosh!
Wow, that goes down fast.
Cracklings are insane! The adrenal glands, of course, giving them a huge boost to their attack speed. Very rare you see that in the games. It doesn't come until Hive Tech, but with this particular composition, it works out well. Those Zerglings, a deadly counterattack force. And Lambo going to push out. He needs to make it happen. He's got an army supply advantage. He has Lurkers. These units do wreck Ultralisks. The important thing for Serral, though, is he kept his Vipers alive. And the Blinding Clouds are part of what ruined him last game. If you Blinding Cloud Hydras, you know what they do? They will try to walk forwards into Banelings. They're not the smartest unit. You need to be so well pre-spread. Otherwise, you get annihilated, and Lambo knows it. He's going to go for a massive pre-spread.
Not good, Pig. We're seeing Serral with the patience, going to pull back, fan out, let more Ultras come out. 5 about to pop. Looking for the multi-angle approach. There's the 4 Vipers circling around, looking for the Blinding Clouds, and it's going to be now. Here comes the entire wave of army. Baneling's not getting a huge connection, but there's just such a good flank behind this. Supplies, again, pretty locked even here. The Ultras weathered down. Pushing forward is Lambo, though.
From Lambo. He actually ran forward a squad of Hydra, sniped 2 of the full energy Vipers before they got a spell off. Yeah, a few good Blinding Clouds landed after that, but Lambo amazingly realized the threat of the Vipers. Every Viper is gone now. If Lambo can maintain this position, it's going to be good, but the Ultralisks around.
That's going to be it. It's curtains for you. You made one mistake. Serral scores the victory and advances 3-1. Nice effort, Lambo. That was an interesting push there at the end, but Serral's just too darn good.
Finally tested and pushed to his limits, but the young Finn comes out on top once more with an impressive 3-1 victory. Weathers the storm of incredibly intelligent and smart playstyles from Lambo. Tried to pull the wool over Serral's eyes. Serral didn't have any of it, and in that last game managed to close it out.
Serral fist pumping on stage. He knows what this means. It's going to be the finals, and I can't wait to hear from him and our host on the stage. Smix, take it away.
Thank you very much, In Control. Congratulations, Serral. You are now in the grand finals of WCS back-to-back, 2 times in a row here in Austin. You have made it. It's one thing to be considered the best, as every player we have talked to has said, but it's quite another to prove it so consistently. So how proud of you are you of yourself right now?
I mean, I'm very proud of myself, obviously, but I still have the trophy to be claimed, so it's not all done.
The trophy is waiting for you in the grand finals that will be coming up after our next semifinal. But in this series, I want to ask about Darkness Sanctuary, as that was the last map we just witnessed. There was a little bit of a back and forth there. In the end, what do you think were the key decisions that you made that led to your victory?
Well, I think the style I went was quite good on that map. I'm not really too good at the style myself, but I wanted to go for it. I have played it a couple of times. My execution probably wasn't too good, but that's good enough this time, and luckily that was the case.
Well, now you're moving forward and you're going to be playing either Special or Mana. Special, obviously, the last NA player left, a fantastic Terran player, and Mana, who's become the dark horse of this tournament. So what are your thoughts on those 2 players?
I think they're really both of them are really good players. So I don't know. I'm just gonna wait who I'm gonna get. I'm kind of hoping to get Mana since he has been not getting as good results lately. So it'd be nice to get him in the finals.
All right, well, congratulations again, Austin. Give it up for your first grand finalist, Serral.
Unstoppable defines this man's tournament performance in 2018. Serral pushed a little bit. Can you say he pushed to his limit just because he lost a map? That's about as far as he's gone. That is as far as he's been pushed this whole tournament.
I mean, even that last game, I really have to hand it to Lambo. He got into good positions. He played really, really well. Serral was able to still claim victory in the end, but I think Lambo had a really, really solid performance there and kind of pushing, I think he pushed Serral to his limits.
Yeah, the limit where he lost one game in a best of 5.
He has pushed him to the limits
right?
of what we're used to seeing from Serral.
In math, when you have limits, it's when things get really, really close together. And yeah, the first couple of games were pretty close. And then you saw, I think the end of that final game in the series was just really so iconic. It's Lambo trying to make the best effort that he can to push through. And then Ultras and Banelings just swarm him from 360 degrees. And you're like, oh, it's Serral. So I think we all kind of expected Serral to go on to the grand finals, and he is living up to the hype. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what either Major or Mana can do against him, because the best anyone has been able to do it against him in Challenger and in WCS Austin has been taking a game.
One map, and that has made things so rough here at the WCS. We do have the updated bracket as Serral has birthed himself into the grand finals after a dominating performance whole entire tournament. And nobody's surprised. This is, if we were like, but as soon as the tournament started, everybody's like, yeah, Serral's the strongest player. Even back in the first day of the tournament, group stage, people were like, yep, no one wants to play Serral. He goes up against the winner of Mana in Special. I think a lot of us probably agree with Serral that his opponent he would prefer would be Mana, as he has been the weaker of the two. We didn't expect Mana to show up, though. So, I don't know. Maybe Mana's the only person who can win this just because of the weird upsets he's been doing.
All he's got to do is win the first game, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't work
Lambo
so
won
well.
Lambo just won that first game.
I was going to say Lambo's breaking the trend. I feel like for Special specifically, I think he's been a little bit overdue for a trip to the finals. He has yet to really make his name in WCS. He got close in Leipzig, but I think he could actually just go all the way here in Austin.
Yeah, definitely Special's best opportunity to get himself into the grand finals of a WCS event. Ladies and gentlemen, that is what's coming up next. It is going to be Special versus Mana here at the World Championship Series. And just some quick thoughts on this before we go to break, gentlemen.
Oh, well, I think it's kind of interesting that Mana has now basically gone through, let's see, he's gone through Snoot, he went through Neeb, so he's gone through a Zerg and now a Protoss, and now he has to face off versus a Terran player. That's always, it's like kind of a weird feeling, I think, for players where you have to play all 3 of the matchups and really prove yourself versus 3 of the best players of each race. I mean, if he earns this, if he gets through to the finals, I feel like Mana's earned a spot in the finals.
Yeah, he's been a bit cheesy too, Rapid, so I think that's something that Special's going to have to really be on the lookout for in this coming best of 5.
Yeah, I feel like when Special loses, especially against Cheese, it tends to, I don't want to say tilt a little bit more, but it definitely does throw him off a little bit. But he has been rock solid against everything. And we haven't actually seen Special pull out too many crazy early game strategies. So I want to see him mix it up and really sort of stress test Serral before he, if he does make it to the grand finals. So I don't know what to expect, but I hope that they are good games. I think we've seen quite a few of them. It just hasn't looked all that close. You see the 3-0 and you're like, oh, that was dominant. But actually, several of the games have been very, very close.
This last series definitely the closest that we've had. It's time now to find out who our second grand finalist is going to be after this break. Ladies and gentlemen, it'll be Mana versus Special.
Today, we retake